No,
And he tried to
not all
get
the
me
time.
to go spend, well,
We were in the UK.
more
There's
time
no
than I would
time.
like.
You got to go
But
pay your
still,
bills.
but still more time than I would like. So we then needed to come together and be like, okay, what kind of what kind of arrangement is this gonna be? Because I'm not going to them church where there's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and if you're not serving God, you're a sinner. That's a lie. I don't need to work to earn my salvation. My salvation was a done deal. But growing up, it was as if I had to work for my salvation. Make sense? So then we had to reach a consensus. So what are your value system? And now our value system is relationship with God rather than this hyper kind of spirituality. So you have to figure that out. What are our joint values? What are our values around money? Are we going to be saving in this family because we want to acquire stuff? We want to leave a legacy. We want to leave many houses for our children. Or are we going to be saving because we want to spend that money on experiences? This is a thing that couples clash about all the time. Because, yes, they both agree that we want to save, but what are we spending that money on? Are we going to invest it? Or are we going to go to Barbados this year, Paris next year, because we actually want to have experiences in this life? What are our values? Education. That was another thing we had to deal with. I'm of the view that children don't need private school. Because I went to public school when I was in Nigeria, I went to private school. But then when I went to the UK, I grew up half my life in the UK. I went to public school, like a public, regular John Doe school. And I did well. I thrived all the way to a PhD and I have a doctorate. So I'm like, if I can make it in a public school in a Western country, why do I have to pay $12,000 a year for some overpriced education? He's of the perspective that they should go for that overpriced education, right? You have to talk about these things. Education, what is our values around education? Do we like the public system? Do we want to go to Catholic school? Do we want to go to Christian school? Do we want to go to charter school? What are our values? How many children do we want to have? Do we value just this, you and I, baby? I want nothing to mess that up. So we don't want children. Or you and I, baby, and I can manage one. Or you and I, baby, and I can manage 5 because I have that bigger heart. He wanted 5. I told him to find a new girlfriend. As we kind of broker a deal on 3, and we're good. But you have to talk about these things. What are your values? Do you value a big family? Or do you just want a small family? So you have to talk about your values. And your value, then you can craft it for a vision for your marriage. Because now we have a value, right? We have a value about how many times we want to go to church, how we want to serve, how we want to spend our money. So then you can create vision yearly. Okay, next year, what's the vision for our family? All this money we're spending, are we going to buy stock? So the vision for next year is the money we've acquired, we're going to buy stock, or we're going to buy a new house, or we're going to Barbados. Or, okay, we want to go to church 3 days a week, which means that's 3 days a week we can have dinner as a family. So the vision is that then the remaining 4 days we will have dinner together. Right? Okay, we value extended family and having big families. So then are we going to move closer to my parents? Or are we going to move closer to your parents? How many times a week are they going to come into our home? Or is it just an open door policy? They can come anytime. Then the vision would be, okay, when I come home from work, we're all going to grandma's house. So we're going to have this kind of family experience. Your value then can shape the kind of vision you craft for your family.
The next one is financial preparedness. That I wasn't prepared when I got married. nobody taught me about that because that time when we were in the UK, it was like I was focused on getting my education, and that time I'll be using credit card, acquiring money because I couldn't go back to Nigeria. There was no way, no way. No, that was this. It was non-negotiable. So I had to just keep it. 10,000 pounds. We'll pay it at the end of the our lifetime. But when we got married, we didn't sit down to discuss about money at all. And But one of the good things was like, I growing up, I saw my mom. Your money is your money. My money is my money, and that brought a lot of division in the family. I said no. I I I couldn't do that. That was one of the things in my head. Our money, one. We must be one in everything. It can't be one in our son name, one in our house, one in our children. We are all everything. But when it's time for money, it's hey, your money is your money, my money is my money. It's going to easily bring division because it will bring a lot of triggers to me because I saw what that broke their marriage. Because easily, hey, daddy, give me 5,000. Mommy, give me 5,000. No communication, So I felt that needed to bring us together. But I was not prepared for that. And getting into marriage, I had over 5,000 pounds in debt. Over 5,000.
I had money in the bank.
And she had money in the bank. She is the saver. We need to know our personalities. There are different personalities, money personalities. She is the saver. I'm the spender. That's going to already clash in a marriage. You're already seeing there's already an issue there. So if you don't see something, if you don't face something, how are you going to fix it? So until you realize there are certain things, okay, how are we going to do this together? And that still goes back to what I was saying in being supportive and companionship, that blessing, because I did not know how to save. I didn't grow up saving. Oh, let's spend, let's spend. You have the 3 girls first and 5 boys last. So boys, we just want to spend and spend and spend. And I grew up like that. And we need to, and that's where that grace also comes in that we're talking about. That having that grace, because if we're deciding to change in that area of finance, we need to have that grace for your spouse or your fiance to say, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do the budgeting? Because she's good in budgeting. So she had all the spreadsheet, the incoming, the outgoings, every single thing was there. It's okay. And that's that vulnerability. And through that, now I still like to spend because I say, no, I don't want to get to heaven and say, okay, that's where my blessing is. I'm spending here. I always tell her, if by the time we're in the 90s and we're not spending as much, and she goes to heaven before me, I'm going to buy a Lamborghini, man.
And I'm going to hunt him if he spends all our saving on Lamborghini.
So I'll be the only one at home. So it's not a problem. But it's about getting that personality right, and making sure you have the balance. So she knows that, okay, he likes to spend the money on certain things. And now she knows that she can't save too much, that she too has to spend. So it's a win-win for everyone. So you need to get that financial stability. You need to prepare yourself to say, hey, we need to do the work in this area.
Transparency is important. I think with what my husband shared that he had debt, I knew about it. So I went into it willingly. It's not like I went into marriage and then it's like, so babe, I have $5,000 in debt that is now your debt because you've married me. No, I knew all the way. And we had a plan in place even before we were married on how we were going to start paying down these debts. So I took on that debt willingly. Now, we have heard of stories where one spouse has a lot of debt and they hide it from their spouse and then they get married. Of course, now you have the same address, right? So the debt collector is coming to the same address now. So there's no hiding anymore. And that hurts when you discover in marriage that your spouse had hid something that big, because that could be the difference between being able to buy a house or not being able to buy a house. Right? So it's important that you please be transparent. Don't hide stuff from this person you're going to commit forever to. It's a bad way to start. I think it's me next. Family and cultural expectations. So this is another big area that young couples who are aspiring to marriage has to be aware of, and you have to talk about it, please, before you get married. Even if you're from the same country, The fact that you come from two different states or two different regions means there are cultural expectations that might differ. So, if you know anything about Nigerians, we have multiple regions, right? Which means if you've heard our name, I'm Damilola. Anyone knows what culture that comes from? Yoruba. Sir, he is Ifechukude. I saw your face. Does anyone know where that comes from? Yes, Igbo. So you have a Yoruba girl and a Delta boy or an Igbo boy. Ooh, I saw you. You're like, ooh. So you see why you have to talk about family expectations and cultural expectations. Because our dynamic of being, we're from the same country, but we're from two different regions. That alone has a different cultural expectation. I come from the region where thankfully my family are not like this, but my extended family, but my immediate family are respect. Yoruba people are big on respect. And everybody is auntie and uncle and big mommy and big daddy. You won't call any of your aunties by their name. You can't call like your great aunt, like auntie somebody. Oh no, it's big mommy. Because it would be disrespectful to call them what they actually are, which is auntie. Right? So I have a lot of big mummies, like too many of them, because you cannot call them auntie this. They have a culture where respect is not really a thing.
Respect is not given, it's earned. You gotta
They
earn
make
that
you
respect.
earn your respect. So if you don't earn your respect, they're gonna tell you about it. You can see where there's a problem already, right? So it's important that you actually understand these dynamics. Unless you want to go find someone who's from your village and next door to your, and even that, the family dynamics, that's why we put family and cultural dynamics or cultural expectations. The individual family will still have their own nuances that you have to acknowledge and you have to talk about, right? What do your family expect now that we are married? Do they expect us to come to you every Christmas because you are the man? And that's what you've always done for the, I don't know, 30 years of your life. Christmas was always with your family. So now that I'm coming in, am I expected to totally abandon my family and never do Christmas with them again? Couples don't think to talk about that until the first Christmas comes and the man is like, of course you're coming to my parents. Like, what do you mean? Where are we doing Christmas? Are you like, what do you mean? Of course. Do I not have a say? It's like, but I'm the man. What do you mean? Where are we doing Christmas? You're coming to my mom and dad. I mean, if your mom and dad are not here, you have a little bit of a get out of jail free card. But if they are, you better talk about it before you get married. Like, are we taking turns? Your family for Christmas, my family for New Year's? Or is it my family for Christmas every other year? You got to talk about the family expectation. And it's important to honor your family and bring them along as well. I don't think it's a thing where it's just like, okay, mom and dad, I'm married now and I'm never going to see you for Christmas. Have a conversation with them, right? My husband and I, or my wife and I, have decided that we will do Christmas with you every other year. And we appreciate that. That means you're not going to see me for Christmas once every 2 years. Please bear with us whilst we kind of find our way. That is better than on Christmas Day. They don't then see you and you're like, mommy, I'm not coming. They're like, what do you mean you're not coming? And then now you've set up your spouse for conflict because they will say, is that husband of ours? Is that wife of ours? She's stolen our son. He's stolen our daughter. If you don't have this conversation. So it is important that you understand the family you're coming out of. What expectation do they still have of you as their son? Do they still expect you to send all their children to school because you are the firstborn and you are their father? You know, culturally, that thing is a thing. It's so painful for me because I call it black tax. So now I'm the firstborn and I carry the weight of sending everybody else to school because I was fortunate enough to leave the country first. And now I'm single. I can do that because I'm earning 100K and I have a generous heart, right? I can do that. But now I'm marrying a woman. I'm not a man, so this sounds like a awful example. Okay, So I'm a woman. I'm the firstborn because that happens too for the women who are firstborn. And as a woman, you're now supposed to be their mother, right? And that happens. I've got women who've told me this story time and time again. And your mom will delegate you, the mom of her children. That is so messed up. But that's a story for another day. So you've now been delegated the mom of your siblings. And you usually, I mean, family will put together to send often the first one out of the country, right? So now you are indebted for life to that family. That's often the case, unfortunately. And whilst you're single, you could do that. You earn 100K. I beg, what are you doing with that money? You can help your siblings because by the time they change $10,000 to Naira, that's a lot of money. So they're sending your siblings to school. But now you're married and $10,000 of your family income disappears without conversation. You better believe that girl's going to give you or that husband's going to give you. Like, what? Because now we want to buy a house and we don't have enough deposit because you're sending your siblings to school. Make sense? So we have to understand what are the expectations that our home of origin still have of us. Once we understand that, can we negotiate and mediate? We're not saying abandon your family. We're just saying carry your spouse along and have a conversation and find a sweet middle.
Because that happened to us, and when we got married, we said, we're not doing black tax. We don't have. We're not their parents. So we're not their responsibilities. And it's the truth. I'm not my sibling's responsibility. Well, yes, my sibling is not my responsibility. Well, where we can help, we will help. But don't put that on top of my head. Don't do that. Especially when you're in marriage, you want to enjoy yourself and you want to have children. You're taking a 27-year-old person's problem while you are 29.
Unfortunately,
how is that possible? How is that possible? It doesn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense to me today. So we don't.
It's a
and maybe
thing.
because we were in the UK, we struggled for our own school fees. So there was no way anyone was going to tell me that I should go and pay after struggling for my own. I should struggle for another person's own. How is that possible? No, there's no way.
But that's our own healthy boundaries. So please, you set your own healthy boundaries based on your family dynamics and what works for you and your spouse.
Yeah. And the next one is roles and responsibilities. Before you get into that marriage, what are the roles? What are the responsibilities? What is he going to do?
Gender roles.
What is she going to do? What am I going to do? You know, and for us, we just decided, hey, she likes cooking. Okay, fine. I don't like cooking. I don't like my food. I don't like the taste of my food. You want to cook? Fine, you cook. You know, I iron. I clean the house. You know, when we started having children, I cleaned the house with the children. You know, I clean the house. Thank you. I clean the house with the children, and that's cool with me. That's fine with me. But we begin to say, okay, what are the roles? What are your roles? What are your responsibilities? But at the same time, as we have children and the children are growing, obviously I have to start putting myself and say, hey, baby, I need to start cooking too, so that they start seeing. Because whatever you do, the children are watching you. They're watching every step. You're shaping them. You are shaping the way we were shaped is the same way you're shaping the next generation. So it's like, okay, those roles, those responsibilities. What can I do now when they're not children? Yeah, when they're children, what can I do? And with seasons, it changes. It's not the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah, that's quite a quick one.
Can I add?
Yeah, you can.
Gender roles. Do we know what I mean by gender roles? Some are nodding, some are not. So gender roles are usually informed by culture of origin. So the gender roles in Canada will be different to gender roles in Nigeria or elsewhere in Africa. And there are some cultures that have quite defined gender roles, i.e., the woman is supposed to carry the baby in the tummy, birth the baby. You're the one who's going to wash that baby, clean that baby, feed that baby because you're the woman. And the culture dictates that you're the nurturer, right? So whether you're sick, whether you came home from work late, your man's never going to help you wash that child or feed that child because in his mind or in the cultural norm, the gender role is that you birth the child, you are now going to care for that child. Gender role is that I'm the man, it's your role to be in the kitchen. Because culturally, that's how it was defined, that it's the moms that do all the cooking, it's the mom that's in the kitchen, that's her domain. That's what I mean by gender role. And unfortunately, gender role it's often in favor of men and not in favor of us women, at least traditional African gender role. Now, the question is this: are you going to have a conversation about that? Because the truth of the matter is, those of us that were brought into this country and were not born here, many of us were raised with those gender roles. And in our homes of origin, it may even be that the girl was used to serve the boys. We have a lot of that. And some girls carry trauma because of that. Because then it felt like my parents preferred the boys versus the girl. So gender role is a big thing that you have to talk about, and couples are fighting about and hurting each other about in this country. So you have to have that conversation. Is there a traditional gender role here where you expect me to always be the one that do the cooking, the cleaning, the bathing the child, and you're never going to help me with that? And if it is, okay, am I cool with that? If not, I better find myself a new fiance. Right? Because the truth is, there are couples, we both work. We both go do the 9 to 5, 10 to 10, 2 shift, whatever. And then because there is this gender norm, I'm still going to be pregnant, give birth to do the delivery, birth the child, feed the child, help the child with homework. And you're going to tell me you're earning the money. And I'm like, dude, so do I. So gender role is actually really, really important. You have to talk about it. Physical intimacy and readiness. Intimacy readiness. Sex ed. Did anyone have sex ed in school? There are a few of us who didn't have sex ed. You had sex ed. Thank you, sir. It's not enough. And since Pastor David did not invite me here to come and be a physiologist, that's kind of all I'm going to say. I'm going to say the sex ed you had in school is not enough. Because when it gets to kind of physical intimacy and being ready, for those of us that were raised in the church, oftentimes, at least my kind of upbringing, sex is bad, stay away from it. You're not supposed to have sex. It's bad, is bad. You're not supposed to even feel like you're sexy. Sorry, I used that word. You're not supposed to think, dang, that's sexy until you're married. And then you get married and you're supposed to know what you're doing by the help of the Holy Spirit. It don't work like that, guys. I've been married a little bit. So the truth of the matter is you're both going to need to be ready to go on a learning journey together, where you're going to learn your body, he's going to learn his body, he's going to learn your body, you're going to learn his body. And I've said way too much. Pastor David would not invite us back. Okay? So you do have to go on this journey of learning together, and you have to be open-minded, ready to set the rules. How much do we want to explore in building intimacy? And intimacy is not just kind of sexual intimacy, of course. There's emotional intimacy, there's physical intimacy. Do I like my hands to be held in public? Or am I shy? And I don't want you, like, it took him a while for me to be able to do that. Be like, I'm like, dude, you married me. Hold my hand, dang it. What's your problem? Because culturally, we were not taught that. So walking around and holding each other's hands, it took him a little while to get comfortable with that. Because it's just like, freedom. I just want to be free. And I'm like, you mine, you're fine. You're too fine to be walking around with nobody holding your hands. Hold my hand, dang it. I don't want nobody thinking you're free for the peeking. Hold my hands. Right? You have to have conversations. There are some people who don't like to be touched. I have like Tolu, I have a adopted baby brother who it's trauma because I lost his parents early, blah, blah, blah. The whole idea of touching is like, so then I'm like, okay, how you guys doing it? Right? So you have to talk about these things. Are you comfortable with being in public and your spouse is doing that? Or are you like, oh, jeez, what is that? Don't touch me in public. Or do you want to be touched in public? Because there are some girls who will feel rejected. They're just sitting side by side and he never even does. And they're like, he don't love me in public. He don't want me anymore. But if you don't talk about it, you will carry this hurt. And like, he never looks at me in public. He never touched me. He never holds my hand. And then we'll get home and he'll be all over me. Get away from me. Like, I wasn't your spouse or your girlfriend when we were in that party. You didn't even hold my hands one. You didn't even attempt to dance with me. Now you are home and you're get away from me. Right? That's a real thing. So if you don't have the conversation that if we go to that party, you better have my eyes on your eyes on me. 85% of the time. Because I want to know that we're still connected. But if you don't have this conversation, how does he know that's what you want? Or how does she know that you still want that kind of affirmatory once in a while talk if you don't have the conversation? So that's all I can share about.
But that is where the personal growth and self-development comes in. Because you need to be the best version of who you are or God has called you to be. Because getting into marriage, I was definitely not the best version of what God has called me because of the roots. Because everything goes back to your root that shaped you. And that's not 99.9% of the time, that's not the best version. It's just get on, like with the family I came from, 8 children. I'm number 6, so you can imagine. By the time they got into me, they were already tired.
Factory production.
They were already tired. So I had to do things myself. But was that really the best version was that the best version? No. So now I had to start educating myself, going back to school, educating myself, knowing, okay, what should I be doing? What kind of communication style did I have? Aggressive. And now I have to be, assertive. I had to go back to school to get this work done. So your self-development, and in marriage, there are different seasons. So you can't just say, oh, yes, there's a season of when you get in, before you get married, there's a season when the first 2 years are the biggest. Because there, you can easily deal with that person. Because those are two people coming together. I always say two dysfunctional people. In most cases, yeah, 99.9%. I put it that way. Or let's put it as science says, the 80%. Yes.
Research says 80%.
Yeah,
so
80%.
Let's stick to the data.
Okay, the 80%, right? I agree, it's high. But they're coming together. How are we going to make sure that we have that self-development? Emotionally, psychologically, mentally, if you have to go and do counseling, because in our culture, they say, oh, counseling is bad.
Pray and fast.
Yes, that's all. Pray and fast. The Lord will do it. It doesn't just work out that way. If you want to get to that promise, because as they say, 80% are in the wilderness. How do you want to get to that promised land? Self-development, knowledge. You have to do it in marriage. You can't just sit down there because, as they say, your marriage is as good as the sickest person in that marriage.
As the most unhealthy person.
Yeah, the most unhealthy. I say the sickest. No, but it's the truth. We gotta have to. So now, as the person is like that, how do we make sure self-development? Because we want to get to that promise. And we need to do it individually, self, and together.
Covenant mindset. I think we covered this a little bit, but the idea of this is don't go into marriage with this divorce on the table thing. A lot of couples go in the marriage, and it's just a result of our brokenness and our hurt and our pain. And it's this mindset of, doesn't work, I can get out. If you go in with that mindset and with divorce on the table kind of in your mind, then it's likely that the enemy already kind of has a little footstool in there. But if you go in together with an agreement that we are going to, as a couple, have a covenant mindset, which then means that I'm going to consistently check myself. Am I walking in alignment with this covenant I made? Or if it's the kind of contract divorce on the table mindset, it's this of, okay, you want it that way? Let's do it. Don't want to talk to me? So you can play that game. Let's go. Oh, you want to keep your money? Is your money, my money is my money. Fine. Two can play that game. But if it's the covenant mindset, you can kind of rail it in. Okay, wait. Okay. You want to keep your money? I want to keep my money. But what does the Bible say about this? What does the Word of God say about this? Is this going to help us represent the kingdom well? Right? Are we going to be honoring God if we make these decisions this way? If I react this way, oh, I've already reacted that way and I don't repent and I choose to not apologize. Covenant. Okay. Am I honoring God? Am I bringing glory back to God? Am I shaping this marriage in a way that is going to represent the kingdom's purpose? Covenant mindset. So if you have that covenant mindset where it takes you back to Christ and it points you back to Christ rather than, well, I heard about 6 months I can get a divorce. So it's not too bad. Yeah, about 6 months if you have good grounds. If you all do that too, can play that game long enough and you get enough evidence, 6 months. But if one of you is stubborn and wants to fight, then it can be years, but we won't go into that. But you don't want to have that mindset. You want to go in with a covenant mindset, and it all points back to Christ. What does the Bible say about this? Okay, he hurt me. What does the Bible say about that? Okay, she hurt me. What does the Bible say about that? What would the Lord, like, what would Jesus do? That's the covenant mindset.
Patterns, red light. And Pastor David spoke about that, is the patterns in the fiance or the person that you're going to get married to. What are their patterns? Red lights, we like to ignore it. Oh, don't worry, when I get married, the Lord will do it. No,
They
no,
will
no.
change.
They will change. You can't change. I love what somebody said. Love is blind, but marriage opens your eyes. Let me say it again. Love is blind, but marriage opens your eyes. Before we got married, I already saw some patterns. The Lord, you told me she's my wife, but I can't marry her. I'm sorry. No. We're going to end up
That's
in
why
divorce.
it took 8 years. I was a piece of work.
It's going to end up in divorce. And these are the things you need to look and say, okay, when we're getting into this, what can we speak? How are we going to communicate and say, I'm seeing these patterns. If you believe that it's not going to work out, do not go inside it. Don't do that. Because that will be a living hell if you go inside it. We've seen a lot of people go inside married 10, 12 years, 13 years. And I'm saying, when we're coaching, at the back of my mind, I'm thinking, and you knew this. Why did you do it? Because of culture. Culture is pushing you to get married. It's pushing you for your mental health. The children that you're going to give birth to are watching. They're going to suffer. And they think, oh, let us just be religious. Let's go night vigil, and the Lord will just do it. Why didn't the Lord do it for us? The Lord would have done it for us because our parents were, yes, it's the truth. The Lord would have done it because they were praying. They were praying. But the Lord did not do it. We had to work on it ourselves.
Faith without works, eh?
Yeah, faith without work is dead. So those patterns, we cannot ignore those patterns. We just cannot. We need to address those patterns. Please make sure we're not saying that marriage is not beautiful. It's beautiful if you get it right.
What are the patterns, though? I'm just asking for someone who's thinking. What patterns?
Red lights. Like now, number one, drinking. A person likes drinking. To just drown his sorrows. And secondly, if they know that the person knows how to trigger you, That's a deadly pattern because that means the person is not willing to change. So he knows that if I trigger this person, the third one, it's you see about the person the way the person spends money, and you're talking to the person, you're talking to your fiance, and the person is not changing. What do you think is really going to happen in marriage? And you pray, and the person will change. Whatever you accept before marriage is going to continue until you decide to change it. I'll just give a story. A friend of mine, when we were in Sweden, go from UK, we went to Sweden and here, and she wanted to get married. She wanted to get married. This guy, he wasn't romantic, not romantic guy at all. I said, and address some certain issues. I said, okay, why don't you address these issues before you get married? Oh, no, no, no. The Lord said, the Lord said. I say, you are going to face it in marriage. You are going to face that same thing. Don't worry, me and the Lord, we will handle it together. Fast forward how many years later? Because of that same issue, almost broke them up. It was just because of, I would just say, pastor. I was just intervening. That's all. Was going to just help them, and now she has 2 children. And now when you speak to her, what does she say? Wow, if I knew certain things, she's a pro in it. Now I'm thinking. I said, but I told you, you did not want to listen. And that time I was not a marriage coach. You didn't want to listen to me. So it is there. It's not that we cannot ignore these things. You will face it. You'll face it.
I'm going to be a bit transparent and share some of our red flags that we had to deal with, right? So we said we dated 8 years before we got married. And it's because most of your red flags come from your home of origin. And I know I'm being hard on parents. I'm a parent myself, which means I'm also holding myself accountable. So my red flag, one key one I can share with you vulnerably, is this idea of perfectionism, right? I needed a spouse who was not going to be anything like my father. My father was a drinker, enforces with force, just the kind of husband you don't want for your daughter, right? Which then means I had a picture of opposites. You're not going to drink, not even Holy Communion. If it has alcohol in it, he has like a whole bunch of boys. And they like their beer once in a while when we were dating. Which then means that's like a cardinal sin for me. Because that's like you what? You had beer. You did what? I didn't say he got drunk. I said he had a beer. So then it meant the man had a high standard he had to live up to that honestly was not attainable by a human who lives in a world of sin. So then he was constantly in trouble. Like he was just constantly in trouble with me. And it's hard to live with be in a relationship with a person who is holding you to this unattainable high standard. So that was one of our red flags. We just meant if we got into marriage like that and I'm not adjusting my expectation, which of course is more realistic now, it meant he's going to be walking on eggshell all of his married life. Because if he looks at me wrongly, I might accuse him of wanting to do domestic violence. If he gets angry, which every normal human does, I might be like, are you going to beat me? Yeah. So because I'm just happy trigger, everything is domestic abuse, everything is violence, everything is, do you understand what I mean? So if you have those red flags where your spouse is hypersensitive to certain things, pay attention to it. And then let's walk through it. Okay, what is behind this? You called me, I didn't pick up, and suddenly I don't love you anymore. Like, okay, wait, calm down. What is this about? Let's work this out. Because if you go into marriage, that's even worse. It's now you're cheating. I called you 2 times, you didn't pick up, you're cheating on me, and you're like, I was in a meeting. So if you don't deal with those things before you get into marriage, it could be a problem. One is mine. So decide well. I think that's pretty much what we've been talking about. There is such beauty in marriage, honestly, but there is work to be done. It is hard work to have a healthy marriage. It is equally hard work to have a dysfunctional marriage. So choose your hard. This is the truth, though. It's really, really hard to die to self daily. We had to die to self daily today. Truth. Today. For us to be able to sit here today, you think the enemy is not going to throw stuff at you? Oh, it's going to use all of your brokenness, your triggers, everything at you. So to be able to sit here today together, we had to die to self. Big way today. Today. So if you're going to choose, decide well. Choose well. And make good daily decision. If you're dating now, keep your eyes open like that. No love is blind. That's a lie. Shine your eyes. I'm telling you, if you're dating somebody, shine your eyes like this. Nigerians will say koro koro. Shine your eyes koro koro like this. Open your eyes. The marriage will open your eyes anyway. So shine your eyes now. Right? How is he treating the waiter? How is she treating the waiter? Is she disrespectful to the person they think can do nothing for them? If they are, shine your eyes. Right? How are they treating other women that are not you? Are they disrespectful? Are they making rude comments about other women? Shine your eyes. Is she got this unattainable level of perfection that she's asking of you now? He shined his eyes. We broke up a little bit so that his eyes were shining well. That's why we can still be sat here almost 22 years later. Because thankfully, love was not blind for him. Love was shining his eyes. And I am so grateful for that. So shine your eyes, please. Open wide. If there are things now, no, we're not advocating for breakup. We're advocating for do the work now. Because you're going to do the work later. Marriage is hard, whether it's dysfunctional or whether it's healthy. It's the work. Only that if you do the work to be healthy, you will benefit. Now, you know when the Bible says it's going to give you life and life abundant? Oh, just wait till you're in marriage and you're enjoying that life and life abundant and you're enjoying it with another person. It is so cool. And then you create little babies. Oh, who get to say, so when are we going on our next holiday? And we're like, we're just going to go to a little chalet or whatever cabin. Oh, what are we eating tonight? Oh, we're eating rice and stew. Can I cook with you? Those little joys. It's not just the big things, right? Just the small joys that you can have. You can have life and life abundant now. And that's just you and the children. What about the future? If you do the work, do you know how many generations of healthy you can produce? Just think about it. If each of us do marriage really, really well, and each of us have 3 babies, and we raise them to be emotionally whole, spiritually whole, we even send them to good school so they now have good educational background. Maybe we'll leave them a house so they have some financial equity. 3 healthy human. Those 3 healthy human perhaps get married. Do you know what just the 2 of you have just done? You've created 3 kingdom shakers who will then marry another person who hopefully by the grace of God are healthy. But because of what you did, they then create another 3 people who are hopefully healthy. Do you see what just the 2 of you by the work you did just created? So I say that to say, if you make this decision well, you're reaping dividends for generations and generations and generations.
3 generations. They say.
At least.
Yeah, at least 3 generations.
And if you do it poorly,
So,
if you do it poorly, you could negatively impact 3 generations. So while it is work, we're going to implore you to decide to do the work because it is worth it. Not just for you, but for the future generations.
and round this up, he said, how do we get these skills? I love this Proverbs 24, verse 3, where it says, by wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Wisdom. Well, how do we get this wisdom? Most of the time, where we come from, they say, oh, we need to Make sure what happens in the house, stay in the house. That, we're not going to tell anybody outside. But how are we going to get this wisdom if we don't speak to somebody? Well, Proverbs 24:14 says, "No, all that wisdom is sweet to your soul. If you find it, if you find it." Where are you going to find it? It's not definitely not in the house because you don't have the wisdom. Because if, for example, my parents didn't have the wisdom in marriage, so I'm coming to a marriage being dysfunctional and expect me to have a wisdom. How? I need to go outside to go get it. So there's future hope for you. So if you get the wisdom, there's future hope for you. And your hope will not be cut off. I can guarantee you. We are living testimony on that. You know, if you meet the right, we are a big fan of having mentors, coaches in this area. Or if you have a mentor, and coaches are the best, really. You need a mentor, you need a coach. We're not saying go speak to everyone, but you need someone that would, a Joshua, that would take you from the wilderness to the promised land in marriage. You need that person that will hold your hand, because we got those, we are looking at you guys. You guys are where we were 14 years ago. When we got married, I told God, I said, "God, there's no way I can live my marriage like the way my parents did, because I will end up the same way with them. There's no doubt. We need help." And God, with his favor, brought, we just got married and we're coming back from, we didn't even have money for honeymoon. We were that broke in the UK. We didn't have money. We didn't even know where the next food will come from. We were that broke. But a lady comes, British lady comes, and she just stops and she says, "Are you looking for a church?" She's never spoken to us. And we're looking at, how did this lady know that we're looking for a church? Because we're just going to drop our groceries and start looking for a church that day. And I just allowed my wife to speak to her. We got in, we saw the church, we knew that this was our home. And before you knew it, they started talking about marriages. And we had to dive in. It's good to pray. It's okay to pray. It's not a problem. But we need to do the work. Because without you doing the work, you would not see any result. The blessings that we spoke about, you're not going to see. We need to do the work. There are gonna be times you will hit the wall. But if you want to be gold, you need to go through that fire. People want to get the blessing in a marriage, but they are not ready to get refined. It doesn't happen that way. God wants us to get refined because there's a purpose to why he said, "Okay, you and both of you get married." There's a purpose. So let's get that wisdom. You sit down and say, "Hey, this is who we're going to be speaking to. They've been married for 15, 20 years. I need to get wisdom from these people. Let's tap into them. If they're from the same church, let's tap into them. Let's see what they are doing so that we can get that knowledge." Yeah. And yeah, that is it from us. you know, there's a difference between godly and ungodly wisdom. We have to be very careful in that. You need to go get the godly wisdom. I love what someone says. They said, especially with decisions, we are all born looking like our fathers and mothers. We will die looking like the decisions that we have made. What decision are you going to make that will change the trajectory of because the destiny right now is in God's hand, but God is not going to, in terms of decision, he's not going to, how would I allow you, he's not going to move you. He's not going to force you. But right now, he's sitting down here, you're getting the knowledge. You're getting the knowledge. I'm going to end with this. And this really, Proverbs 12, verse 1. It is something that it stays with me all the time. And it goes like this. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge. But whoever hates correction is stupid. I didn't say it, it's the Bible that said it. But if you want to get that knowledge, if you want to get that wisdom, then you love knowledge. You will get corrected. For people, 80%, what are they? What are they doing? Some of them are just ending up in divorce, domestic violence, family disruption. They hear the knowledge, they hear it, but they go back home, they do nothing. That's what the Bible calls stupid. I didn't say it, it's the Bible that said it. I love that. Anytime I get any knowledge, my goal is that I need to make sure I do the work. We go to podcasts, we know what we are listening to. We come together. We're not perfect. We are looking for healthy marriage. I know what I'm gaining. I want that to continue because you will be married longer than you being single. So why not do the work, even if it's in the first 10 years? We've been married 14 years, right? If they ask me, when did I really, the sweetness of it kick in, it was when COVID happened. But that time we were building it, I wasn't seeing there was something that was missing. I felt there was something that was missing. But when COVID happened, we started enjoying our marriage. For me,
Plenty of time to enjoy the sweetness.
yeah, but I started enjoying, I was looking for, but during that period, that was when a lot of marriages were breaking down because they didn't do the work. And that's it for me.
Slide just shares about our nonprofit. So, if you are looking for support, we are at your service. All right. We are certified coaches. So that means that we know a tiny little bit. That might be useful for you if you're interested. We've got leaflets at the back if you want more information about that. It's a nonprofit organization, which means if you cannot afford it, the support, you will get it free. We will find you the grants, we will find you the money, or we'll ask Pastor David to pay. If you cannot afford it. So please be sure to get help, get support. Relationship being healthy, it's so okay.
Programs that we do workshop 8 weeks. We talk about reconnection, communication, how do you handle conflicts in marriage, third parties, finance, intimacy is a gift in marriage, and your love languages. We also do for youth. Also, we do for youth and
Yes, so we have programs for children and we're developing something for youth. So actually, we have a symposium in July
yeah.
where we want to hear young adults and youths what is happening in your sphere and what do you need for support. So check it out. It would be good to just hear your voice so that we can create something that kind of meets the need. For our nonprofit, we don't like to design stuff just because we think we know it all. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from the community and then design and co-create with the community. So that's the whole idea of the symposium in July, is to hear the voices of adults separately and young adults and youth separately to understand around the area of relationship, what's happening, what's the need, what can we do to support you, and then we can create or co-create something along the lines of what you say to us. So that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, we will definitely, when the time the flyers are out, we will give Pastor David, and he can hand it out to you guys. We also do peer-to-peer support, and it's just making sure that there are counselors, there are coaches, there are mentors available to help you guys along the way. We do, what do you call it?
Events, social events, just to build community around couples and relationships. So those are other things you can.
Yeah.
The music dinner theater, we do that once a year. And it's just an opportunity for families to come together and have an experience and also see in a theater format what's working and what's not working in relationships.
And that's it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any
Thank you
questions?
so much. Thank you for having us.
Any questions?